Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. It's almost February. We're pushing through winter. So if you're somewhere where it's freezing cold, I hope that it will start to warm up. I'm here in Florida, and it is actually really cold today. So I'm like, what is happening? Anyway, I'm glad you're staying inside and you're listening, because today Edo Van Belkom is back on with us to talk about his new 25th anniversary edition of Death Drives the Semi, so I'm really excited. And if you haven't read his books yet, you're in for a treat, and there's quite a few so that you can binge read. So I'll read his bio here so you can get to know him, and then we'll chat a little bit. So Edo Van Belkom is a Canadian author of 35 books and over 300 short stories in the genres of horror, science fiction, fantasy, and mystery. His short fiction has been published in countless anthologies such as Year's Best Horror Stories, Year's Best Erotica, Robert Bloch's Psychos, the Hot Blood and Shock Rock series, as well as several anthologies based on RPGs. His story Rat Food with David Nichol won the Bram Stoker Award from the Horror Writers Association, and Hockey's Night in Canada won the Aurora Award, which is Canada's top prize for speculative fiction. It's Monday. I'm having a hard time speaking. Okay. More recently, his Silver Birch and Aurora Award-winning young adult series Wolfpack has served as the inspiration for a supernatural TV show, Wolfpack, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar. It's on Paramount Plus right now. You can watch it anytime, so log in and check that out. I did put a link to his website right there on the Blog Talk site, so if you're listening live or if you're listening later, definitely click over there and see what he's been up to and grab all those great books. And with no further delay, are you there?
I'm here, Lisa.
All right. It's so great to have you back on. I'm excited because you have this brand new 25th anniversary edition. That's a milestone of Death Drives the Semi. You want to tell people about it? Are there special features in there for readers for the 25th anniversary?
Yep, absolutely. The collection first came out in 1998, and it's the kind of book that I'm most proud of, because when I started writing, I wanted to write short stories in the vein of Ray Bradbury. And my favorite book of all time was The October Country by Ray Bradbury. 20 short stories, each one terrific. And when I was reading that book, I said, that's the kind of book I want to produce. I want to do something like that. So when I had the opportunity, I published 20 of my best short stories in the book, Death Drives the Semi. It was published by Quarry Press of Kingston, Ontario. At the time, a very literary publisher, so I was quite thrilled about that. And it did quite well. It managed to get a second printing and was a nominee for the Bram Stoker Award in the Best Collection category. It features 20 of my best, as I said. It's got the Stoker-winning Rat Food, Stoker-nominated story, The Rug, the story that was in Year's Best Horror Stories 20, Baseball Memories, my first ever short story publication. Yeah, it kind of, set the bar high. First short story in Year's Best Horror. But, major leaguers who hit a home run their first at bat, they strike out quite a bit after that, and I did as well. So to continue on with how this came about, with the publication of Wolfpack and the TV series, I was doing a bunch of blogs and interviews, one of which was with Mark Leslie, who might have been on your show. It's quite a
I've talked with him before on Booklights. Yeah.
So I did an interview with him, and he also has a small publishing company, and he kicked around the idea of doing a new version of it because he was really, enamored with the book and thought it was great, and had the same regard for that book as I had for The October Country. And he says, how'd you like to do a new edition? And it just happened to be that 25 years had passed. And at first I said, no, that's okay. But as I thought about it, I thought, why not? It would be a lot of fun to do that. So we did. And this new edition has story notes on how they were all the stories were created, an introduction by myself. The introduction by Rob Sawyer, my good friend, was revised. And there's one of the coolest features is sort of a comparison of my author's photo for the original, which had me behind the wheel of a semi-truck, and a new one 25 years later with, a bald head and a white beard, and just to show that nothing's changed about the stories. A lot of things have changed about the author, but the stories were all the same, none changed. Plus, we added a bonus story to be more like them, which is from a young adult anthology I edited, and probably one of my best stories for technique and impact and everything like that. So all in all, it's a really good package, and I'm super proud of it, and I'm glad it's out there.
Yeah, that's really cool. So was it fun for you to read back through the stories, to write the, reader notes about each one? Was it fun to trip down memory lane and go, oh my gosh, I wrote this?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, and I have several points on that. I've done like 300 plus short stories. And oftentimes I go to my brag shelf. Authors have shelves where all their works are collected and the books they appear in and everything. And I can be looking through one of these books and see my name there and a story title, and I said, I have no idea what this story is about. I have no recollection of writing this thing. None at all. I said, did I do that? It felt like Urkel, did I do that?
Right.
And so I would read the stories, and I have read several stories like this, and I said, hey, that's pretty good, and in some way I kind of am saddened that I didn't pursue the career at the level that I was doing at the time, because I got a little burnt out. And, when you put that much effort into something and the success doesn't come, it's easy to get discouraged. So maybe that's part of it. But back to this collection, I would read all the stories, and my reaction was, hey, this is pretty good. That's a pretty good story. That worked. And I didn't change a thing on any of the stories. There was one thing I was going to change in one story, SPS, just a number. And then I thought, I'm not changing anything in this book. Why change this one little thing? Let's just send it out into the world. If it has a blemish on it, then that's my blemish. And I was quite pleased that even though they were written 25 years ago or more in some cases, they weren't dated. It wasn't like, oh, that's an old-fashioned story. And there was no concepts in there that said, oh, that didn't age well. So I was quite pleased on that account that every one of the stories kind of timeless. So, all in all, it's a good package, and it's a book that I'm very proud of, but I think any author would have been proud of to produce.
Yeah, that's so cool. And for to back you up there, for myself, I can go back and read books that I wrote 3 years ago, and someone will point out, something about the book, and I'll think they did what? And I go back and read it. Like, what? It's almost like when you're a writer, your brain is so obsessed with the story that you're telling, and then when it's done, I always imagine that my brain just download, boop, gone. I mean, do you feel like sometimes you think you're going to remember, but you just don't?
Well, it's an interesting thing. At the time, I was doing a lot of stories, and I would do them quickly. I got to the level of skill. I mean, this is like some would think he's full of himself, but I'm just talking in realistic terms. I got to a level of skill where I could write a story first time through. It was fairly close to being finished, a little polish here and there. And then it's out the door and you forget all about it. And if you put it out there and it was published, you're on to the next story and, worrying about that one. And it's very easy to forget about things that have happened in the past. And when I was looking through all that, I did spend some time and pick up some books and say, well, don't remember that story, and I read it. And, oh, that's all right. That's pretty good, So it's very easy to lose track when you're doing a lot and moving on to the next one. Because when you're writing, it's always like about the next thing. When I was writing novels, it was like, oh, this novel's going to be it. This is the one that's going to put me over. And it wasn't. Okay, then we're on to the next one. This next one's going to be the one that does it. And, you do that 5, 7, 8 times, and then it's kind of like, oh, why bother? Because, it's just going to be disappointment after. But it's very easy to, forget and move on. And I guess in some ways it's a good thing. But, and it has been delightful to go back on things and rediscover them, I must say.
Yeah. Do you feel like this 25th anniversary edition has also brought new readers to you, people who maybe weren't reading horror when it originally came out? Have you seen, reviews from people you don't recognize in the industry who are just discovering it?
Another interesting question. Good one. Thank you. I'm on a bunch of social media, and there's a couple of forums where people are readers. They certainly are. And I mentioned this new edition out, and people chime in and said, oh, I read it when it came out. It's one of my favorite books, blah, blah, blah. But I've yet
that's nice.
Yeah, well, 25 years have passed. So there's been a lot of time out there to be read and for people to have an effect on them. But what I haven't come across yet, and it's still early, it came out in October, so less than 6 months. What I haven't come across is people reading it for the first time and then contacting me or me hearing about it, which I'm hopeful it will come. But I get it if people are reluctant because, if I post in these forums, I'm the old man, and it's like, well, what could he possibly know about the horror genre? He was writing 25, 30 years ago, which, fair enough. But I'm still looking forward to hopefully having some positive reader response. There have been a bunch of reviews on different places, which have all been complimentary and laudatory, and I'm grateful for that. But as far as readers yet, I don't think the timeline has been there that it's come out yet, but I'm confident it will.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, you were writing horror back in the day, but you still read it, right? Are you reading current authors that inspire you, who are writing horror, new young guys? To
be honest, I have not, and I should be, but over the last few years, I've read less and less. When I was reading, mostly was when I was still trying to learn my craft. And if I want to start writing again, I certainly have to start reading what's being published now. That's a given. They say the only work most writers are interested in is their own. And I might be an example of that these days. But when I was honing my craft, I would read, 50, 60, 70 books a year, one after another, even good books and bad books, because to read a bad book, then you can recognize what bad writing looks like. And to read a good book, you are able to recognize what good writing looks like. So I have not been reading as much as I should have in the new writers. And it's difficult because there's a different landscape now, right? It used to be you go to the bookstore and you'd pick up a book by an author and say, oh, I'm looking forward to read that. Now there's more books being published than ever before, independently, self-published, from major publishers and small publishers. And it kind of there's like a white noise. Like, who do you read? Who do you pick out? It used to be when I was publishing in the genre, oh, these are the top names. Look, there's a new book by so-and-so. Everyone just gravitates towards that. But the publishing landscape, in the early 80s, every publishing house had horror publishing programs that would do 3 or 4 books per month, each publisher. So you're talking about 40 or 50 horror novels by this one publisher. Multiply that by 4 or 5 publishers, and you're getting, close to 300 novels a year. Now, it's even more than that. So where do you find the right one? But as opposed to giving excuses, I should be reading more in the genre than I am.
Yeah. And I always think of that description of like lizards can't grow any bigger than their container that you keep them in, kind of thing. And I always think about that with writing, is that, if you're only in your own little fishbowl, how can you stretch, so I love reading, to see new things people are doing. And so if you're looking for somebody, I'm really enjoying Paul Tremblay right now, so it might be one to try, of the, the new guys. But he's really talented, I think. I
appreciate that. Maybe I'll give that a check. I'll check that out.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the Wolfpack because, of course, that got turned into a TV series on Paramount Plus. And I know streaming shows are kind of like the Wild Wild West. Before the show started, you had news for me, but you want to tell everybody what's up with the Wolfpack TV series?
Yeah. So the Wolfpack TV series premiered in January of 2023. And my wife and I were at the premiere, and it was a surreal experience, like the pinnacle of my career as a writer. And it aired through January and February, 8 episodes. And then came the writer's strike, and then followed by the actor's strike. And Paramount Plus had canceled a bunch of shows, but Wolfpack seemed to hang on by a thread all the way through there. And last November, I was told that it had been renewed, greenlit, fantastic. And after that, there was talk with Jeff Davis about a cameo appearance I was going to make, and I was excited about that. I was hoping to get killed on screen so I could come back a second day and get all the dead makeup and, have that experience. And he thought fantastic. So I wasn't just going to be some guy in the background that the camera slow panned over. They were planning on the appearance. So that was exciting. And I was told end of March, beginning of April, they were going to start shooting. So plans were in the works there. Scripts had been finished and handed in. And as far as 2 weeks ago, actors who had been sent contracts, and they were all getting lined up. And then last Tuesday, it was just announced that the series has been canceled, just like that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so a year and a half, the best time of my life as a writer, and it was over just as quickly. So
oh my gosh.
I can't complain. I had the chance, and I saw what it was like, and I enjoyed it to the max. And I have no regrets. I mean, that's the way Hollywood goes. It's a stark reminder. There's a lot of reasons for it. Paramount's going through some turmoil now. There's potential sale of properties or the whole company. There's some talk about how the strikes and the delay meant that, a second season won't come out until 2025. So there'll be 2 years between. Yeah, 2 years between season 1 and season 2. So that was not a good bit, and they would have to market it all over again and do all that. So easiest thing, to make money is to not spend any. So it got canceled. So
dang.
It was kind of tough to take, but I'll get over it. And we have other works to promote and things to do. So I'm disappointed, but I had the best time of my life, so I can't complain.
Yeah, it must have been so incredible to see your characters like up there in, on the screen, and to have one be, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was pretty amazing. And that must have been cool.
Her character is not in the book, right? So yeah, that was I wrote a family drama with teenage werewolves being adopted by a forest ranger. The series was a supernatural mystery with two teenage werewolves who had been adopted by a forest ranger. There were similarities at the core, but the stories were different. They diverged. It was inspiration for, not the guidebook to. But I was confident that as the series went on, more and more of the elements and storylines in my books would have made it to the screen. Because the origin story of the werewolf pups had to be told in season 2. And now we'll never know. But yes. But to answer your question, yes, it was fantastic. We were at the premiere. People were cheering when they saw the actors' names or Jeff Davis's name come up on the screen, and at one point, based on the novel by Ado Van Belkom came on, my wife and I were the only ones in this full-packed theater saying, yay, and everyone looking around like, who are these guys? And, so, yeah, it was a surreal experience, and it was a great thing to see it all appear on the screen. So I had a great time, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm sorry that it won't be longer, but you are not the only one, because a whole bunch of shows I've heard that just got started and then both those strikes hit and they're all being canceled, and probably for the same reason you're talking about, is to have a second season come out so long after the other, it would be like starting a show all over again, spending marketing money, I'm thinking.
Well, the thing I can take from it is that from all measures, it was a success. It wasn't canceled because it was a failure. It was canceled by outside reasons, and that's the way these things go.
Right. And you experienced it, and I love on your website all of the screenings and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that you got to live it to the fullest.
We made the most of it. We had a hometown screening where I gave a talk and we saw the episode, and then I gave a reading actually from Wolfpack. Then we saw the episode, and then I gave a talk and answered questions. So yeah, I did experience it to the max.
I love that. Well, we talked a little before the show, but do you want to tell everybody about new things that you're working on?
I'm hoping that Death Drives a Semi is successful enough. Of course, I have to confer with Mark, but I'm hoping that it'd be the springboard to a new collection. I have more than enough stories of a similar vein, a similar style, and of similar quality that I could do a follow-up to Death Drives a Semi. And I would be just as proud of that one as I am of the first collection. So I think that's a real possibility. And I've committed to write a brand new story for this summer.
Yay.
And we'll see how that goes. I'm still working out the nuts and bolts of it in my head. And, I can't commit it to paper until I know how it's going to work and if it's going to work from my years of practice and training as a short story writer. So it's kind of on a loop in my head. What if I try this, if it works, and then we'll go on like that. And past that, maybe we'll do one more video on YouTube, Wolfpack Facts. It might be the last one where I talk about my whole experience the whole time. So if you want to see my reaction to the series, Wolfpack Facts, type in Ado Van Belkom on YouTube, and those things show up. They're very well-made videos. My son works in television. He helped me with it. So we did a lot of that. And that was a lot of fun, too, and that's over, too. So, woe is me. But, it was having a lot of fun. And we were, I was working with my son on it. It was a great time. And there were so many things that on the periphery of the TV series that were great that we have to say they're over now, too. But I'll probably do one or two more of those. And that's where we're going. Some part of me says, maybe there's still a great novel and I might start one if I can come up with something good enough. But We'll start small, baby steps. We'll try a short story for the summer.
Yeah, that sounds great. Is it going to be a horror story? I mean, I know you also write like sci-fi and fantasy too. Is this one going to be spooky?
No, it'll be an actual science fiction story with actual science fiction ideas in it. Yeah.
Nice. How fun.
Yeah.
Well, let me see here. I'm trying to get the dog to stop barking without yelling at him.
That's okay. I've had similar experiences on interviews and podcasts. One of them, my dog came up to the loft and was on the couch looking out from the third floor, saw a rabbit in the yard of the neighbor across the street and wouldn't shut up. So I know what it's like. I feel for you.
Yeah, one time I had, I think it was Ray Garton on, and my cat, we have one cat who never comes out or chats, but for some reason on that particular podcast, the cat came out and started meowing at me. I'm like, what is happening? And out of the blue, Ray's cat starts meowing too. And it was so funny. We were like, well, apparently our part of the interview is over and the four-legged friends have taken over because they had much to say.
That's hilarious. And I'm aware of Ray Garton and his work. He's a great writer, great horror writer.
Yes. Yeah, and he's working on a new book too, finally. So it's really, really exciting. And do you think that maybe, I'm just putting this out there to the universe, but now that the Wolfpack happened and you put out this 25th anniversary, do you think that there's a possibility somebody might pick up more of your works to do, TV or a movie or something like that?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. When I was on set in Atlanta, the director, Christian Taylor, he said to me, it's interesting to see what's going to happen to you after this. And I thought, ooh, maybe he knows something, but he didn't. And nothing really did happen. It was Wolfpack, and, that's it. We did, there was a 4-book series, and the 4 books did sell to Saudi Arabia. The first book sold to Czechia and also another edition to Italy. But that's where it ended. There was 4 audiobooks too on Audible, so that was great. But nothing past that. And, as far as the collection goes, there's 20 excellent short stories in there. And I would have thought that 1 or 2 of them would have been picked up for a horror anthology show or something like that.
Right.
Over the years. But, it's all exposure.
Right.
There was a time where any work by Stephen King would have had a TV or movie adaptation, and because he's Stephen King, and people saw the works come out, and people read them, and they expected something to be, a visual adaptation to come about. And I would have thought that over the years, 1 or several of the stories might have been picked up. Hasn't happened, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
but who knows? Hasn't happened yet.
We'll keep sending it out to the universe. But I think now that you're, this one door closed, I bet another one about to open, and short stories turn into great movies usually. So maybe there is something in there. Somebody's reading it right now, and your life going to change all over again.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment, and you are right. One door closes, another one always opens. So I'm just waiting for that. First, the door to unlock, and then open up. But I appreciate the good vibes.
Yeah. Well, we're running out of time, so everybody be sure to go check out Death Drives the Semi. It's a special 25th anniversary edition with story notes. It just sounds like a great read. So definitely go check that out and keep a watch because Ado's working on a new story, so that's exciting too. Keep us posted.
I will. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for being on today.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.